Hello and welcome to Vatican Diplomacy. This is our weekly touch base from Ido Iten's Vatican Studios on all things related to the Holy See diplomacy efforts, which include analysis also on how the Holy See is working to support and encourage peace and the common good worldwide. My name is Alan Holdren. I'm Ido Iten's Vatican Bureau Chief, here in studio with Andrea Gagliarducci, our resident specialist on all things related to Holy See diplomacy.
Nice to be with you, Alan.
Welcome again. So, Andrea, today we're going to be speaking about the fall of the Berlin Wall that happened 30 years ago on November the 9th. It was about 100 miles long. It was put up by East Germany to really separate Berlin into East and West. The Holy See was involved back then in sort of behind-the-scenes efforts. We have the possibility of looking back now to see exactly what the Holy See was doing. What was it doing?
Oh, well, there are two kind of things the Holy See did during the Cold War. There was a Holy See before the Berlin Wall, a Holy See after the Berlin Wall. There was a Holy See before the Berlin Wall in Germany and after the Berlin Wall in Germany. So the Catholic Church in Germany worked very much to keep the unification of Berlin despite the Berlin Wall. For example, the Archdiocese of Berlin never changed its boundaries. They always considered Berlin as a whole. And this way they were able also to organize sometimes at one point after the Berlin Wall was built some trips between East and West, so to keep the connection between the two things. Then there were efforts behind the scenes from the Holy See toward not just the Germany, but all the countries on the other side of the Iron Curtain. Why? Because the Holy See needs to have priests to be the Holy See, needs to have priests because the center of everything is the Eucharist. We can call it the diplomacy of the Eucharist that was put in action in every country from Germany on.
One of the main sort of criticisms of Pope Pius XII during the war and then after the war, and also Paul VI going into also I suppose John the 23rd, was that there was this silence that reigned as far as the Holy See concerning what happened behind the Iron Curtain. How, in fact, did the Holy See work? What were its policies? And why would it have been that popes may have been silent on certain issues?
Well, I wouldn't say there was silence, because there have been also encyclicals. For example, one of the Oriental churches about Bulgaria issued by Pius XII already. So not so much silence, but they had to work in diplomatic issues to have priests, as I told you. So the main concern for the Holy See was to have a hierarchy of the church that was able to ordain new priests and so to keep the church up. That's why they had to be very careful in speaking out, being too much vocal sometimes, and to work with the local governments in order to preserve Catholics. It's always something made to preserve something else. When I speak about the diplomacy of Eucharist, I speak about the first concern of the Catholic Church. First concern is to have ministers of God able to consecrate and then deliver the Eucharist, so priests. But to have priests, you need bishops. But if bishops are imprisoned or the governments don't let you have bishops, or bishops are just exiled, it happened many times during this time. So what do? You speak with governments, you try to find a way out. This is something they did in the Iron Curtain. It's kind of a peculiarity of the Holy See diplomacy that is happening also now. For example, we can make a comparison between the agreement on the appointment of bishops the Holy See at one point had with Hungary back in 1964, and the agreement on the appointment of bishops the Holy See had with China now.
Mm-hmm. And if you look behind the Iron Curtain and who those bishops would have been, who would you say are the main figures that were sort of influential in Catholicism in that time?
Oh, well, speaking about Hungary, there was Cardinal Mindszenty. Cardinal Mindszenty was the Archbishop of Esztergom, Budapest, and after the Hungarian Revolution that was then suppressed by the Soviet Union, he was exiled in the US Embassy in Budapest. As long as the Holy See was able to negotiate with Hungary his exit from Hungary, so he was never able to get back to Hungary. Then there was Cardinal Wyszynski, that was the primate of Poland, the Archbishop of Warsaw. Now he's going to be blessed. Then was Cardinal Baron in Czech Republic. I would say every country had some important figure.
And if we examine that term Ostpolitik, what are you referring to exactly when you say that?
So Willy Brandt in Germany, he used the term Ostpolitik to talk about the politics that Germany had with East and with Eastern countries on the other side of the Iron Curtain. So they used the same term to describe the Holy See policy toward the Eastern countries.
If we apply that sort of technique of Ostpolitik, entering into dialogue with those Eastern Bloc nations, to today's policies of the Holy See Secretariat of State regarding, say, China, is the same sort of criticism valid of that way of entering into dialogue, whereas another way would be to completely rule off all dialogue with these nations?
Actually, it's always the main issue. We need bishops to ordain priests. So what they did with China was, we are aware that China has problems in terms of religious freedom, as they were aware with Hungary, Czech Republic, and so on. We are aware that China has an underground church. Actually, during the Iron Curtain period, there were also possibilities for underground churches in Hungary, Romania, and so on. It was discussed. In some cases, there were small underground churches, but we need to have bishops. So we talk to government, because step by step we go there. What does the Holy See do? The Holy See always acts laterally. So one of the main issues that brought to the fall of the Berlin Wall was one minor thing the Holy See did that was generally thought as with no consequences. In Helsinki in 1975, there was a huge meeting that was about to found the Organization for Cooperation and Security in Europe, the OCSE. So in the statements, the Holy See wanted in the statutes of this new organization to include the right to religious freedom. It was minor. Was just one article. But when they presented it, some of the presidents or the members of the Eastern Bloc, the officials of the Eastern Bloc, they understood that it was a bombshell. They said that it's a bombshell. And actually, with that paragraph, when they used an organization with a meeting that Russia wanted, because Russia wanted the Holy See and wanted the meeting, then that started to tear down the wall step by step. So it was lateral thing. It happened in 1975, but it was, decisive for the fall of the Berlin Wall.
And after 28 years, the wall fell in 1989. How much did John Paul II actually have to do with that?
Oh, well, Lech Walesa, the Solidarność leader, the union in Poland that was decisive for the collapse of the Polish regime, said that in his opinion, John Paul II worth 70% of the fall of the Berlin Wall. Actually, yes, I would say yes, because having a pope from the Eastern countries that was able to speak for everybody on the other side of the Eastern Bloc, it was very decisive, because no government, no president, nobody on earth could avoid to listen to the Pope. So one of the first things John Paul II did, his second international trip, was a trip to Poland. And at one point, the regime wanted to deny him the permission to go, but they couldn't, because he was the Pope. So they had to have him in here, and he spoke very vocally, and they could not stop him. So at one point, they also stopped a live of one of his speeches because it was too much. But actually, the
event continued, right?
Yeah, it continued, and the process started, and nobody could stop it.
And there was a famous line that the crowd chanted, which was, "We want God."
We want God.
In an atheistic regime.
Yeah.
Last question, how is the Church across Europe or in the world, how is the Vatican marking this occasion of the 30th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall?
Well, there was a statement from COMESE. COMESE is the Commission of European Churches. It's a commission that is based in Brussels to monitor the EU activities. They issued a statement marking the 30th anniversary of the Berlin Wall. Then there was also a sort of a ceremony in a place where the Berlin Wall was in Berlin. So Polish, German bishops put red roses on that place. Actually, there were not so many statements in the end. It seems so far away, but in fact, we can see that Eastern countries are still experiencing the Soviet time. They're still getting out of that. It's just 30 years after that.
And there was a statement from the Vice President of COMESE saying, this is His Excellency Monsignor Franz Joseph Overbeck, in times of strengthened nationalisms, the fall of the Berlin Wall reminds us vividly, and not only the Germans, of the value of liberty and of the EU's significance as a project of peace. So we'll just end on that. Thanks everyone for being with us today, and let's keep this conversation going by way of the hashtag Vatican Diplomacy and writing us directly at EWTN Vatican on Twitter. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.